You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
6 o'clock right now here on Good Morning Colorado. A day of tragedy in Highlands Ranch in all of Colorado yesterday with another school shooting in which one victim was killed. And we are now at the scene of a press briefing that's taking place in Highlands Ranch. And there you can see they're getting ready to talk. Let's take it now.
We have DA George Brockler, Governor Jared Polis. Those are the three people that will be speaking. They will make a statement and answer a few questions after each one. We also have up here Under Sheriff Holly Nicholson-Cluth, State Patrol Chief Matt Packard, Director of Homeland Security Kevin Klein, Director of Public Safety Stan Hilke, Superintendent Thomas Tucker from the school district, as well as from the school district Executive Director from STEM School Highlands Ranch, Penny Euchre. Again, Sheriff will speak first, answer a few questions. We'll turn it over to DA George Brockler, who will answer a few questions, and then we will finish up with Governor Jared Polis, who will answer a few questions. If we can make sure that when you ask a question, we're going to have the sheriff kind of restate that. If you have any problems hearing anything, just flag us down. That way we can make sure everyone hears it. I will turn it over to Sheriff Tony Spurlock.
Thank you, Kosha. Thank you all for being here. I first want to speak to the community of Douglas County and those kids that were at the STEM school yesterday afternoon. Our hearts are hurting for them, and I ask the community to come together as we always do here in Douglas County and be strong, excuse me, and pray for the family of the child that was lost and the other 8 who are injured and still suffering from their injuries, and then the other remaining almost 1,800 kids that were at the school that had to be a part of this terrible tragedy. So I asked first the community to do that, and I thank the media to helping me share that information. What I want to do just very quickly now is go through just some very quick things that happened yesterday and some new updates and information. Yesterday, a little before 2 o'clock, the STEM school notified law enforcement of an active shooter in their school. Officers responded. As you know, that the STEM school is less than probably about a mile from this substation. Officers from this substation, detectives and command officers responded. But we had officers on the street that were there with inside 2 minutes. Once at the school, they immediately engaged the suspects and started to rescue the children that were injured. We have an adult male that we sent out information on yesterday in custody at the Douglas County Jail. We originally thought that we had a juvenile male in custody, but through our interviews yesterday late afternoon, determined that we have a juvenile female that is in custody right now, who is the other suspect. All of the victims that were shot have been released except for three children that are still in intensive care and at area hospitals. We are still actively working the crime scene with our partners from the FBI. We anticipate that that's probably going to take at least 2 more days for us to manage that. I want to just make sure that we focus on the families and the kids at the school, at the STEM school. As you can see, we have the superintendent of schools here and the leadership from the STEM school. We've been working very closely with them since this incident and trying to do whatever we can to help the kids. Friday will be the last day for the seniors, and so we're obviously working very closely to get them a location and assist them for those children can return to school and finish their education for this season. That is all the information we have. I will say there's a couple more things. I apologize, and I think the district attorney may speak about it. We will have a hearing today, and George will be present at that at 1:30, and that will be the first appearance for the adult male. And George will share a little bit more information about that. All of the other information that we have, we know that a lot of you have developed information in regards to the deceased child. We have not gotten a positive from the Douglas County coroner, who has the legal authority and responsibility of releasing that person's name. We have contacted family members, but we are not releasing that child's name until the coroner has positively done what is required by law for the coroner to do that. We will push that information out after 2 o'clock today, and I do not anticipate that we will have any other press release information until tomorrow, once we have some more information in regards to our crime scene. You can imagine that it is a very extensive crime scene, and we have asked the assistance of the FBI to help us work in every location where a crime was committed inside that school by the two suspects. So I want to turn it over quickly to District Attorney George Brockler, and then he'll turn it over to the governor, and then we'll answer a few questions. George.
Good morning. My name is George Brockler. Last name is spelled Brauchler. I'm the district attorney for Colorado's 18th Judicial District. That is a judicial district that has 4 counties in it: Arapahoe, Douglas, which is the one we're in right now, Elbert, and Lincoln. I live in Douglas County, and for about 18 years I lived less than half a mile from where this incident took place. And I'm going to talk to you as the DA, but I want to begin by talking to you as the DAD, as the dad. I got 4 kids in this school system. My wife's business is less than a mile from here. I grew up in these parts. And if you had suggested to anyone behind me or in this room that within 20 years and 20 miles we would have dealt with Columbine, Aurora Theater, Arapahoe High School, the shooting of Zach Parrish and 4 other deputies, we'd have thought you mad, and yet here we are again. My heart goes out not just to the victims in this case, but there are those that won't be classified as victims that are feeling it this morning right now. Moms and dads looking at each other, making decisions about whether or not to send their kids to school in one of the greatest school districts in the country because they don't feel safe. That's the dad talking to you. We're having those conversations at home too. Now, as the district attorney, I tell you procedurally, we do have a hearing this afternoon at 1:30. That hearing is an advisement. It is going to take place at this time with the adult suspect. I want to make it clear too that no matter how much information is given out by law enforcement or is confirmed by other sources or you develop on your own, that for this system to work, those people have to be presumed innocent, including the individual that the sheriff's office released the name for yesterday, have to be presumed innocent for this system to work. And that's how we'll conduct ourselves. Now, at 1:30, this is a person who will be brought in, advised, given a preliminary advisement. There will be an attorney assigned or hired. There is going to be an additional date set after that, and we can have conversations after court at 1:30 to discuss procedurally what takes place after that. Now, there's also the juvenile suspect who is equally presumed innocent. In our state, as in just about every other, we have 2 tracks for adults and juveniles at this point in the process. I cannot tell you for certain that juvenile will be advised today at 1:30. If we know more about that information before then, of course, we're going to let you know all that. A couple favors I want to ask of you, and we are too familiar with this process. The name of the adult suspect has been released. There are probably photographs out there now, and there will be additional ones in the future. The juvenile at some point will likely become known. My request to you as someone who has been in this game too long and dealt with cases of this high-profile nature too often is to adopt a no-notoriety approach. I know that you have an obligation to report the name, the identity. I know you have the obligation to put out a picture. But soon, very soon, Let us move past focusing on the identity of the suspects and their images and focus instead on the innocent victims and on this crime and the investigation itself. Thank you. It's my privilege right now to introduce to you the Governor of the State of Colorado, Governor Jared Polis.
Well, I want to thank Sheriff Spurlock, Colorado Public Safety Director Stan Hilke, the FBI, and even more importantly, all of the first responders on the line, police, medical, ambulances, the school staff, parental reunification team. Really, a lot of people stepped up to this crisis to manage it competently and effectively. Everyone really came together, and now it's time for the community to come together in Douglas County, across Colorado, and our community across the country to support the parents and families impacted. You know, the past 24 hours have been very difficult for Douglas County, for Colorado. We learned that a student's life was taken too soon by this vicious act of violence. You know, as the father of two young children, I can hardly even imagine the horror and the grief that the families must be feeling. And of course, our prayers are for the complete recovery of the remaining victims. Truly, the heart of all Coloradans goes out to those affected in the school community here and elsewhere. You know, I think at this point, Coloradans are really heartbroken, frustrated, still shocked, and frankly sick over a mass shooting occurring right here in Douglas County. You know, schools should really be places where students can learn and grow, safe places, and we shouldn't have to worry about being marched out or being airlifted to hospitals or even losing one's life in a place that's supposed to be a safe place for all students. At this point, you know, as governor, I share the heartbreak, the frustration, the sickness that families here at STEM feel, families in Douglas County, and families across Colorado. We owe a debt of gratitude to our first responders and the men and women who responded quickly to prevent an even worse tragedy from unfolding. You know, time and time again, Coloradans have proven how resilient we are, and this time is no different. Yes, we come together in grief. We also come together to heal, and we come together to figure out what we can do better as a state and as a society. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions if you have for either the governor or the district attorney or myself.
There was a car,
I'm sorry, Tony.
taken away from one of the houses last night with graffiti on it. Can you talk to us about that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, there was a car that was taken and seized as evidence at one of the crime scene locations, not one of the crime scene locations, but one of the locations where the suspects reside. That is still being under investigation. The graffiti on it is still being analyzed at this point, so I don't have any specific information on what it means or where it came from. Let me get with you.
Sure. Can you explain at all what the confusion was about the juvenile suspects?
Yes, well, I can tell you it was a very confusing situation. We had a number of officers in a school where shots were being fired, and the officers were trying to recover victims. We identified who the suspects were. They were taken into custody, and at the time, the individuals that we believed were in custody were two males. It wasn't until we got to this office where we were able to determine that one of the suspects was a female. You have to understand that this individual is a young person. This individual is a small young person, and the identity wasn't definitive, obvious to us when they were taken into custody. And then I was shared that information and didn't have anything further when I made my first press release.
Can you tell us how you were able to identify the suspects, and what do you know about the motive of the the shooting?
I'm not going to share information about the motive at this point right now. It's too new. We're only less than 18 hours into this case, and we're still working towards a motive. How we identified the suspects is through basic police work and assistance from the school district.
You mentioned another, was there any kind of interaction between the young person who died and the suspects, or other students who were in the room and the suspects?
The unfortunately, the deceased student, I don't have any particulars about any interaction other than the fact that the person was shot by a suspect. We do know that there were students, and we are going to hear about very heroic things that have taken place at the school. We do know that there was at least one that we can verify, the student that encountered the suspects. And I suspect that as the detectives get further interviews from them, we are going to find that there were much more heroic things. We watched on video some of the things that our deputies had done in regards to rush in and take the kids out and run them 100 yards to the closest ambulance. So there was a lot of those things happening throughout the school with employees of the school, other students, and staff. So we're too early to even clarify anymore.
You mentioned another specific about encountered. Do you mean that they might have somehow tackled them?
That
or touched them, or
I'm
does
using.
that make sense?
She wants to know of the word encountered. I'm using encounter because that's the best word I can come up with right now of their engagement. So I can't break that down any further for you. I'm sorry.
Another possible 2 days in terms of investigating a crime scene. How many locations could we be looking at when we talk about?
There's only one crime scene, and that's the STEM school. We have search warrants for the suspects' homes, as would be common practice, or any cars that they have access to. So.
You mentioned multiple locations within the school. Can you get any more specific as to how far they could have gotten around in terms of different?
As I said before in the first briefing, these children went to that school. The suspects went to the school. They were able to get deep inside the school. That's the only thing that I can share at this point in regards to the crime scene.
Sure. Did the student that passed away, did that happen inside the school, or is that at one of the local hospitals?
No, that child died at the school.
Sheriff, you talked about having some video that you've already reviewed. Can you tell us anything about how these suspects were apprehended? They obviously weren't. I don't know, were they injured? How did they get taken down?
Okay, I can't. They were not injured at this point. I can't tell you the specifics on how they were arrested, other than they were taken into custody, and they were removed from the school by my deputies. Other than that, I can say that we did not exchange any gunfire with them. I can tell you at that point. Other than that, I can't share anything else.
Were they already restrained by the time your deputies got there?
I believe one of them was restrained when the deputies came in contact with them.
And was that by students?
No, that was by the security officer that was at the school.
Sure.
How many weapons were involved, and how did they get them into the school?
Again, as I said before in it, we know that pistols were used in this assault. The number of weapons that were at the school and how they got in, we're not releasing because that's subject to the prosecution case.
Sure. So there was more than one gun. There was mentioned just one handgun.
Yeah, there was 2 handguns. I'll tell you that at this point.
Sure. Were the two shooters together when the first shots rang out, or were they in separate places inside the school?
That I cannot. I can't tell. I can't answer that question. I'm sorry.
Were they apprehended together?
They were not apprehended together.
Sure. Were there metal detectors at the school that they had gone through?
There are not metal detectors at that school.
Sheriff, with the new red flag laws, do you think these laws could have prevented this from happening? And also, what do you think we could do with schools, since there's been so many school shootings? What could have prevented this from happening?
He asked about the red flag law with that of assisted law enforcement, and what could we do to prevent other school shootings. As you know, the red flag law requires a tremendous amount of information and intelligence gathering before anyone is subject to an ERPO. And these suspects are young adults or juveniles. So their ability to create a criminal history is kind of minimal because of that. So at this point right now, I would say that there isn't any particular information at this point. Neither one of them were of legal age to own or purchase a gun anyway, so it's a moot point in regards to red flag. One of the things that we can do to help our children and keep our schools safe, and that is working together with your school district, local law enforcement, and the government that assists all of those, and educating our children, educating our community, see something, say something at a school. Those are the kinds of things that we can do, educate our children that if they see something or hear something. We have a great program in Douglas County, Text to Tip. There's a state program, Safe to Tell. Those two programs work wonderfully in the state of Colorado every day that you folks don't even know about, that we avert disasters and tragedies because children's. Mountain Vista was one of them where we were able to do that, and individuals were arrested and charged for that.
Sheriff, any reason to believe these individuals were supported or directed by anybody else at this point in the investigation, and where did they get the guns?
Too early to tell at this point. The ATF is assisting us on the location of the purchase of those guns.
Sheriff, can you tell us if there were any warnings about the shooting via social media or otherwise?
That is too early for us to tell. We are deep in all of the social media searches, computers, phones, all that kind of stuff, and interviewing. You have to understand, again, there were 1,800 children at that school. About 600 of them were probably most definitively affected by it because of the pod that it was at. So we're only 18 hours into this. That's a lot of kids to interview, and we still have a lot more to interview.
Are the suspects cooperating? Are they talking to you, or are they...
I can't share that information at this point.
Sheriff, is there any future plans to have schools implement a security system where metal detectors are going to be installed?
Okay, I can't. You want to know if there's any future plans of putting metal detectors in the schools? We work very closely with the school district. As you can see, we have their leadership up here, and we strive every day to try to find ways to protect our children while they're in schools here in Douglas County and still have an environment of appropriate education. So we're still working on that, but I don't have anything particularly. We're going to do a few more questions. Anyone in the back, we've been beating these guys up front up.
Do you know if the student who passed was close to graduating?
Yes, that student was going to graduate and would have been out of school in 3 days.
Do you know which suspect fired the bullet that killed the student who passed away?
No, I don't, and we had a question for the governor.
Governor Polis, once again, the nation's eyes are on Colorado, and in a very negative way right now. Can you add perspective, your concern on what this says about our state? We heard about prior shootings. We all know about prior shootings. What do you say to the people that are looking at Colorado right now and saying we have a problem?
Well, we've been no stranger to tragedy. It was just a couple weeks ago that we observed the 20th anniversary of the Columbine shooting with the solemn ceremony, but also a focus from the survivors now in their 30s, their families. Great to see that many of the Columbine survivors had kids and families of their own. And they dedicated that anniversary to a day of service, giving back to their community, building upon the tragedy that they experienced. So too, in this tragedy, families will come together to support those directly affected. We are a resilient state, whether it's in the face of fire, floods, or a human tragedy of senseless violence like this. Coloradans really come together and show support for the kids and families affected as we make sure that we know that we can do a better job and help make sure that kids are safe in schools in our state and across the nation. America has seen too many of these senseless acts of violence. And there's, a discussion, of course, to be had about what we can do to make sure kids are safe at school. Today, obviously, with less than 24 hours after the tragedy, it's really about the outpouring of support from all sectors for the families directly affected, and, of course, our hopes that the remaining victims who are hospitalized fully recover.
Tony, can I say something about that? Because this is my home. This is not who we are. And my concern is, as this thing gets reported outside the borders of this state and across the country, because of the things we've talked about, this becomes how people view us. This is not who we are. We are exactly what the governor said. We are a resilient people, but the time for resilience isn't going to be within the first 24 hours of this. We're going to mourn, we're going to weep, we're going to take care of those who are down and pick ourselves back up. But who we are is we are a kind, compassionate, caring people, and this does not define us. It won't today and it won't tomorrow. These are aberrant acts. Problem is, when you get 3, 4, or 5 of them within a 20-mile radius, you begin to think they're less aberrant. But I'm here to tell you this is not who we are. Our school district is awesome. Our school district is safe. And my kids are going to go to school today, and I recommend everyone else send their kids to school too.
I'm going to go right here.
Happening in our community. Governor, could you answer that for us in Spanish if it's possible?
And if
Sí.
you could please repeat that question.
Why does it happen in this community? Yeah. Una cosa como eso puede pasar en cualquier lugar en nuestro estado o nuestro país, pero hoy, ayer, lo pasé aquí en Douglas County. Y nuestros corazones están con las personas aquí en Douglas County y también queremos para todos los niños mejorar sus condiciones y regresar y los otros niños regresar a escuela seguros sin la necesidad de pasar más tiempo sin dudas.
Has there been any talk about charging the juvenile as an adult?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and it's something that we're going to explore. We've made no decisions at this point, and you brought up the charges. Let's talk about things that will become publicly available. You will see charges at some point referenced in court or an affidavit early on. Those are not the official charges that will ultimately necessarily be filed a few days from now, but they are the initial charges upon which the adult is booked. As to what we'll do with the juvenile, I'm going to continue to wait and see what the investigation reveals. I want to make a smart decision about that, and I won't be rushed into it.
Sheriff, where did the suspects enter the school?
Excuse me, want to know where the suspects entered the school? They entered through the middle school entrance, which is the northeast side of the STEM school.
And are there metal detectors at that entrance?
No, there are no metal detectors at that location.
Sheriff, can you talk a little bit more about the security officer? You said, I think yesterday, they do not have a school resource officer. Is this somebody who is armed? Is this somebody who is just kind of there monitoring? Who is this person?
So this school does not have an SRO, but the STEM school contracted with a private company for armed security officer at that school, and that individual's job was just that. Again, taking in consideration that the footprint of the STEM school is pretty extensive, so that security guard had that school to monitor.
So that security guard was armed?
The identity of the younger...
Yes, the school security officer was armed, ma'am.
discuss the identity of the younger suspect? I know all of us want to make sure to report correctly. Does this person identify as transgender? Was that confusion?
Okay, right now we are identifying the individual as a female because that's where we're at. We originally thought the juvenile was a male by appearance, and like I said before, I did the press release very early on, and before the detectives were able to get medical and detectives were able to speak to her, and I was able to get the information. That information was corrected, and I had already put out information that the individual was a
Two
male.
more questions, please. Two more questions.
The injuries there, you mentioned, we didn't get really into the specifics. Were they all shot, or were there other injuries sustained, maybe trying to get away from the school?
Okay, all 9 of the students that were wounded at the school were shot at the school.
Okay, one more
Can we
question,
ask the
please.
school official a question?
The school decided that at this point right now this is a law enforcement briefing along with the governor, and they've asked not to answer any questions right now. We're working closely with them on a number of things.
One more right here. Right here.
Was there just that one security officer, or was there multiple at the school?
Just one security officer at the school.
Was the door unlocked?
They have access to get into the school.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. What we're going to do is, like the sheriff stated before, we're going to put together a press release after 2 o'clock, and we hope to be able to release the identity of the victim. Again, please follow us on Twitter for any updated information until then. And I know you guys had some more questions and things like that, but we need to wrap it up. And again, just follow us on Twitter and look for the press release after 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Good words.
You've been listening to a media briefing on the Highlands Ranch school shooting taking place at the Douglas County Sheriff's Substation. A lot of information was delivered. We will not be getting more information, it sounds like, on the suspect at this time, at least from official sources. That suspect, one of two, 18-year-old Devin Erickson. We know he's in custody, but we don't know much more about him. We know that officials have been investigating the family home in Littleton. We also are not getting much more on the juvenile suspect who the sheriff had identified earlier as a young man, but now we're learning it's a young woman. That suspect under the age of 18 now in custody, also potentially going to be questioned if that is allowed. We are going to be expecting to be getting more information on charges, on the affidavits, but at this time, hearing from the sheriff, hearing from the governor, hearing from the 18th Judicial District DA, it sounds like the focus that they want to show will be on the victims, not just those who were hurt, the one who was killed, but also on the families and the students of those who were exposed to this shooting, and all students throughout Colorado. We're going to have more on this coming up in just a minute here on KRDO's Good Morning Colorado. Stick with us.
You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
6:34 is your time right now. Good morning, Colorado, on this Wednesday, May 8th. You've been watching our live coverage of that stream of the media briefing taking place in Douglas County with more details on the Highlands Ranch school shooting. We'll have much more on that story in just a minute. But first, we want to continue to bring you the latest as we look at the weather on these interesting conditions that we have. We have a weather alert out. This is the view in Monument, but doesn't look too windy here. Let's go to Katie Donovan, who has more on what we can expect.
Yeah, weather alert for snow moving in tonight and through the daytime tomorrow. So we will see some accumulating spring snow, but right now far too warm for anything to turn to that wintry weather. Right now we're seeing a little bit of moderate rainfall up along 24 between Peyton, Simla, Alta Vista. Then as you head south into El Paso County, drying things out, definitely finding some clouds out there, but bulk of the rain a little bit further north, closer to the Palmer Divide. We've got a band of showers through Ordway, La Junta, back towards Walsenburg, Trinidad. We've got showers all the way through Cheyenne Wells down to Springfield. So a lot of rain out over the plains. All the lightning is gone, so these showers are starting to weaken quite a bit. Right now we've got overcast skies out there, a little bit of rain falling as we head through the morning hours, and then this afternoon increasing those chances for some scattered rain showers, but best chances for some rain, even a little bit of snow later on this evening. In Pueblo, you're going to be seeing the overcast skies for much of today. Temperatures will be in the 40s. We'll cool into the 30s later on tonight, but chilly afternoon with temps in the 50s, and we stick with those overcast skies tonight. Still watching those chances for some evening showers. We'll send things to Hannah now. She's got your traffic tracker this morning.
Thank you, Katie. I am getting word that there is a crash at I-25 southbound at Tejon, and 2 lanes are blocked, and we can see slowing on the map right now. I'm just getting word of this crash and working to gather more details for you. Outside of that accident, no other crashes to report in Colorado Springs. In Pueblo, a big construction project underway, the ILEX project. Lane restrictions on I-25 northbound between Abriendo to City Center Drive taking place throughout. It started on Saturday and will go throughout this Friday. Speeds in the area reduced to 45 miles per hour, and expect left lane closures. That drive time now from Pueblo to Colorado Springs, 35 minutes with that average speed of 70 miles per hour on I-25 going north. That's a look at the roads. Shannon, back to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Hannah Knutson and Katie Donovan. Now, only moments ago, we got more information from that briefing that was held by Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock. Once again, all but 3 of the students who were wounded in that school shooting at Highlands Ranch have been released from the hospital. Those 3 remaining in intensive care undergoing treatment. One of the students was killed. We know that student was 18 years old and expected to graduate this upcoming Friday. The 2 suspects suspects taken into custody, including that 18-year-old suspect, Devin Erickson, as well a juvenile female. At first they thought it was a juvenile male, the sheriff correcting that information. Also thought to be a student at this school. We have more information coming to us from KRDO News Channel 13's Danny Freed. You were inside that media briefing. Tell us what you know.
Well, Shannon, as you said, we did get a lot of that new information just moments ago. Of course, this hearing just ending just a few moments ago, where we, like you said, heard from Sheriff Spurlock as well as the district attorney and, of course, Governor Polis, too. Now, as you can see, media is now starting to wrap up, get everything wrapped up here to head on to the next part of the story. But as you said, 3 students are still in the hospital. That is of the 8 students that were injured in yesterday's shooting. The student who died has not yet officially been identified at this time. We do know, though, like you just said, he was only 3 days away from graduating high school. Now, we also found out that second suspect is a female, not a male. The 18-year-old shooter was a senior, too, about to graduate. The FBI is also handling the crime scene and investigation at this time. We did also learn 2 handguns were used in the shootings. The shooters entered through the middle school, too, and went into the high school. Now, police did arrive in just 2 minutes. Actually, like we were saying this morning earlier, we did find out that this specific sheriff's office is located only about 1.5 miles away from the school, and there were officers here at this center that went to help. Now, we also heard a lot of emotion coming from all 3 of our speakers today, all of them mentioning how they have children. The DA specifically saying, too, that he lives here in Douglas County and has grown up in this area, so this is something that really touches close to home for him and his family. His wife, too, only working a few miles away from this school as well. So really honing in on the emotion that this brings. A lot of the media here asking, too, what this means for Colorado as a whole in general, if people are going to start looking at Colorado as a center for these kinds of things to happen. But the DA really stressing that this is not what we want Colorado to be about. We want people to really know us for what an incredible state we are. So we also do want to let you know a hearing is set right now, that preliminary hearing for the 18-year-old. That is going to be happening at 1:30 today. We, of course, will be there for that, and we'll be covering that in full detail as well. But for now, we're coming to you live from Douglas County. Danny Freed, KRDO News Channel 13.
And the 18th Judicial District DA saying that there's a possibility that the underage suspect who was taken into custody, the juvenile who's under 18, also may make an appearance at that 1:30 court hearing. So we'll make sure that we stay on top of this and continue to bring you all of the information. Now, the reaction to all of this is pouring in from people across the state. Senator Cory Gardner releasing a statement saying, in part, "I'm heartbroken by the horrific and senseless acts of violence. The safety and comfort of our schools should never be taken away." Even the head coach of the Nuggets, Michael Malone, taking time out of his news conference last night to address the incident, echoing Senator Gardner's remarks.
The thing that makes you angry is that she's telling me how scared my daughters are in their schools, texting her, because they don't know what's going on. It's a lockout. Where's this shooter? You know, is it at our school, some other school? And, you know, when kids go to school, they should be going to school to learn, have fun, be with their friends. I'm not worried about an active shooter.
And the leaders that we heard from at that media briefing just moments ago saying the same thing, that students need to be protected, and we as a state need to figure out how to best protect them. We'll have much more on the Highlands Ranch school shooting coming up. But first, let's go to Katie.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Here's a live look in La Veta from our Viera wireless camera. Lots of clouds right now, but this is one spot that could be seeing some moderate snow accumulation by the time Thursday night rolls around. Go for those snow totals in your full forecast coming up next, 6:41. Welcome back. Time right now is 6:46. We have a weather alert out. Really just seeing rain today, but later on this evening and tonight, some cold air moving in, mixing with some snow. This is our Community Banks of Colorado camera in Monument Highway at Highway 105 and I-25. Excuse me. This is going to be one of our places that sees some moderate snow accumulation by the time tomorrow night rolls around. So if you live up that way, just a heads up. Forecast for today, looking a little bit cooler than yesterday. We've got 40 40s, 50s in through the Pikes Peak region, some 50s out east of I-25, about 56 in La Junta, 55 in Springfield, and we've got those 60s for the afternoon temps in for the San Luis Valley, so a little bit warmer as you head further south and west today. Winter weather alerts have been issued by the National Weather Service. Most of these are west of the interstate. We do have advisories in purple and winter storm warnings in pink, so those are out through about 6 a.m. on Friday, and they have been issued because of that accumulating snow. Some areas of slushy roadways expected there. Futurecast shows the hit and miss showers out over the plains are honestly mainly dry. I think the bulk of this moisture is going to be way north of us here. So a few off and on rain showers, maybe a rumble of thunder today, but a lot of this moisture holding off until 5, 6 o'clock this evening. Notice how coverage really picks up along the interstate through Los Animas County. We're actually starting to see a bit of snow starting up in places through Teller County and back over the high country. So through 9 o'clock tonight, still seeing rain out through the Arkansas Valley, out over the plains, and then that cold air really starts to wrap in. And what that's going to do, that's going to change a lot of this over to snow through tomorrow morning. So we will wake up for snow for the morning drive, still raining out east, and really not getting rid of this until Thursday night. We'll see chances for snow showers for much of the day on Thursday. Rain showers up and down I-25 with cloudy weather a little bit further east. Eventually seeing some cloud breaks moving in as we head into the last part of Thursday out over the plains. Your future snowfall forecast does bring about 3 to 6 inches through Monument. I think we'll see less as you head down into Colorado Springs, but back over Teller County, widespread 4 to 7 inches expected with 5 to 10 plus on top of Pikes Peak. Could see some areas on the summit near 12 to 15 inches of snow there. Future snow a little bit further south shows just a trace for Pueblo, about 5 to 10 around Beulah Rye, traced through Pueblo West, and then you'll start to pick it up again as you head back into Fremont County. So about 4 to 7 inches for Texas Creek, and a little bit further south over the southern mountains. La Veta seeing about 3 to 6 inches, and we should have 6 inches to a foot. Kucharis. Peaks in the southern mountains seeing over 15 inches as well. Your 7-day forecast for Woodland Park brings weather alerts through Thursday and then into the weekend. 50s for Mother's Day. Partly cloudy to mostly sunny skies expected for the first part of the week. Tuesday brings some showers, thunder. Temperatures will be in the upper 50s. Canyon City, you're going to see a dry Mother's Day, upper 60s in the forecast, and we'll see some rain showers and thunder for Tuesday. Temperatures will be right around 70 for Monday, Tuesday afternoon. Pueblo, you're also going to see a dry Mother's Day, so getting rid of this rainy weather. We do have a few more showers in for Tuesday, but coverage not looking nearly as high. And in Colorado Springs, weather alerts out through tomorrow. And then as we head through the day on Sunday, it looks pretty quiet, 66 for Mother's Day events. And then we've got sunshine and at least through Monday before a few more rain showers move back in on Tuesday. We'll send things to Hannah now. She's tracking an accident for us this morning.
Thank you, Katie. Taking a look at this crash. Here's video now of I-25 southbound at Tejon. The left lane is blocked. Scene reports that the center and right lane are open, but we can still even see another lane blocked. It appears the right lane is blocked, so only the center lane getting by at this crash. Emergency vehicles on the scene. Really seeing delays because of this on the interstate. Taking a look at our traffic maps now, speeds slowing around Tejon Street, seeing the interstate slowing to 20 to 35 miles per hour along I-25 southbound, just north of Tejon of where that crash happened. I would suggest exiting at Cimarron Street to get around that crash. That will save you time this morning, about 10 to 20 extra minutes you will save if you exit early at Cimarron. Looking out just north of there at I-25 and Bijou, traffic moving along smoothly, and that continues as we work our way up I-25. Here's a look now in Larkspur for those of you traveling or commuting to the Mile High City. Your drive is looking clear this morning. Downtown Springs to downtown Denver, 65 minutes is your commute time with that average speed of 65 miles per hour on I-25 going north. That's a look at the roads. Shannon, back to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Hannah. Our big story this morning, of course, the school shooting in Highlands Ranch. We just got word from leaders, from law enforcement on the details of the shooting, of the response, and the condition of the victims. We know 3 students are still hospitalized in intensive care this morning. We'll have much more after the break. Our team coverage continues. Stay with us. Our big story at 6:53 and throughout the day, that deadly school shooting in Highlands Ranch yesterday. Today, the response from Douglas County sheriffs, what they said about their response, as well as comments from the governor, as well as the district attorney. We just heard from all of them just a few minutes ago, updating us on the situation. KRDO News Channel 13's Danny Freed is with us now live from that situation and from that scene. And Danny, we're hearing both about what the investigation entails, the FBI now being brought in to process both the crime scene at the school as well as the suspects' homes. We're also, though, hearts are going out to the victims and their families, as well as all the families of those who attend that school, the STEM School of Highlands Ranch. What more do you have to add?
Well, Shannon, that's all correct. You know, it's a really difficult morning for the community here of Douglas County and really the people of Colorado. One of the big takeaways here from this morning's news conference was just how difficult it was for the district attorney, for the sheriff, for even the governor to speak about things like this, because at the end of the day, they really do have a lot of ties, not only, of course, to the community, but because they do have young children, because they do know a lot of people in this community. And even the district attorney was telling us he himself lives here in Douglas County, you know, a district attorney of 4 different districts living here in the county. This is something that really hits home to him and all 3 of them, really. So a difficult morning for the people here of Colorado. Now, just to recap some of the big key points that we heard this morning. Out of those 8 students that were all injured, of course, all 8 of them being shot, we did also find out 3 students are still in the hospital. The rest have been sent home. The student who died has not yet officially been identified, so we'll go ahead and keep you posted as soon as we learn more on that. The second suspect, too, we learned is a female, not a male. That is something that they found out throughout their investigation, and as they brought the 2 suspects in to interview them, they did find that out as well. We also learned that 2 handguns were used during this shooting. We found out that they were handguns. We also did learn, too, that they apprehended a vehicle from one of the suspects' homes. Apparently, the vehicle was spray painted with graffiti. They are still trying to analyze that graffiti at this time, too. So a lot of new information here coming out. We did also learn that a preliminary hearing for one of the suspects is to be held later this afternoon at about 1:30. In terms of the juvenile, we're not entirely sure whether or not a hearing is to be held or what's going to be going on there. Of course, there are 2 different routes that are going to be taken for both of these 2 suspects. So we'll continue to keep you posted here on that situation. And then we will, of course, continue to keep you updated as soon as we learn more. For now, we are live in Douglas County. Danny Freed, KRDO News Channel 13.
Okay, Danny, and as you mentioned, a lot of answers coming from that media briefing, but still some questions left unanswered that we're still waiting to hear from. For instance, how did the suspects get their hands on those guns? They are not of legal age to be buying the guns, so we are still waiting to learn more. And we heard that the ATF, the federal agency, will be helping to assist the Sheriff's Department in obtaining that information. Also, whether the suspects and the victims knew each other, whether this was a targeted attack at specific students or whether this was just random and targeted at the school itself. Still many questions needing to be answered, and we are awaiting that appearance in court later today for one of the 2 suspects that's now being held in custody. Now for a look at 3 things that you need to know in addition before you head out the door. The White House could invoke executive privilege if lawmakers go forward with a vote today holding Attorney General Bill Barr in contempt of Congress. A letter from the DOJ says Barr will ask President Trump to invoke that privilege if the vote is not delayed. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have debuted their new baby boy to the public. The newest member of the royal family showing up in front of the cameras just a little over an hour ago. Still no word on what the baby's name will be. Bets are on Alexander as the favorite. Mom looks great, doesn't she? Also, possible name choices, Arthur, James, and Spencer. An emergency preparedness exercise will be held at 9 this morning. This at the Pueblo Chemical Depot. More than 2,000 people from local hospitals, schools, and other agencies will participate. The exercise testing participants' response capabilities to emergencies. So don't be alarmed if you see a large emergency presence throughout that area in Pueblo County. Right now, we want to head over to Hannah, who's keeping an eye on our traffic.
Yes, I'm tracking a crash on I-25 southbound at Tejon that is causing a lot of delays and traffic troubles right now. The left lane is blocked, and we can see speeds on the interstate as slow as 20 miles per hour right now. Giving you a look at the interstate right now, we can see emergency vehicles on the scene. It appears that the car has been pulled off to the shoulder, but again, add extra time if you are traveling on I-25 southbound. Just north of Tejon, we are seeing those slowdowns even starting to creep up to Bijou Street this morning. That's a look at the road. Sending things now to Katie Donovan with your final look of weather.
All right, thanks, Hannah. We have a weather alert out. Pretty cloudy this morning. Chance for some rain showers, 40s this morning. This afternoon will warm into the mid-upper 40s. Still sticking with the rainy trend. We'll see a rain-snow mix tonight. We'll have accumulation by tomorrow afternoon.
And we'll have much more on the school shooting and the response from law enforcement coming up on GMA.
Thanks for watching Southern Colorado's most watched local news.